Americans lost a record $16.6 billion to scammers and cyber criminals last year. That is nearly a 30% increase in what was taken in 2023. As staggering as that number is, the FBI believes it's likely undercounted because not all crimes are reported. How do we protect ourselves from becoming the next victims of scammers who are getting increasingly good at separating people from their money? AARP Wisconsin is hosting an event to help. Joining us is Courtney Anclam, Senior Program Manager for AARP Wisconsin. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, a record number of people are being scammed out of a record amount of money. How is that happening? Are we letting our collective guard down, or are scammers just getting that much better?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a twofold situation, right? Part of it is that scammers are getting more sophisticated. They have more and more tools available to them. And while we're definitely trying to keep up with them and put legislation in place and crack down on some of this stuff, the legal system moves a lot slower than criminals do. And certainly we never want to say that, it's our fault that we're experiencing scams because that's not true. These people are criminals. There is kind of this feeling of like some people feel maybe they won't ever be the victim of a scam, and so that kind of creates an opening. But really the problem is that these scammers are just getting more and more advanced.
Are there some common scams that are making the rounds these days? And what do we need to look for when it comes to some of those scams?
Yeah, one of the common scams that's going around right now that I'm sure lots of people have experienced is these fake unpaid toll scams. And I think these are a really great example of kind of what you were referencing earlier, is that we're all experiencing scams, but we're not reporting them. I know I personally have gotten a bunch of these scams, these texts where they're saying, you have unpaid tolls. They're claiming to be from the Wisconsin DMV, from Easy Pass, from all these different toll systems. And they're saying if you don't pay your tolls right away, that you're going to end up having to pay extra fees. And then they give you a link where you can go and pay the fees. And what the link is really designed to do is to like steal your credit card information. So in this particular instance, if you get one of these text messages, the first thing you need to ask is like, have I been driving somewhere? Is there a potential I actually have unpaid tolls? And if the answer is yes, you're going to want to like verify that independently with the administrator of the toll. And definitely don't click any of those links. Don't call anyone. You can just delete those text messages that you receive.
Well, and it's interesting. You talk about text messages. Scammers are using every possible way that we communicate with each other to figure out ways to take our money. So we know it's texting now. What are some of the other things?
I mean, like you said, literally any way that you can be contacted, scammers are using that to get a hold of you. So we see a lot of scams starting on social media, like a direct message on Facebook, text message, phone calls, door to door, even still in person. We see, especially after, we have an extreme weather event. Contractors will go around and offer to fix your gutters and stuff like that. You still get mailers for like fraudulent offers. Um, Email still huge. So yeah, any way that you would normally get information, scammers are using that to try to get in touch with you.
What are some of the red flags?
The first red flag is going to be an unsolicited contact. So, somebody reaches out to you and say they're your healthcare institution. If you weren't expecting to get contacted by your healthcare institution, that's your first red flag. A lot of this is scammers reaching out to you, posing as somebody trying to be helpful. So if you weren't expecting contact and they're reaching out and asking for information or money from you. And especially if they want you to act urgently, that is another really big red flag. Pay your tolls within 24 hours. Um, take this investment opportunity. It's only going to last for a day. Stuff like that, where they're getting you to act immediately. That's a red flag. And then if you are being asked to pay some kind of fee or something like that, if they're asking you to pay using a gift card, that's for sure a red flag. And the new thing now that we're seeing is these cryptocurrency ATMs. So if they're asking you to take money and deposit it into an ATM to pay a fee, that's also probably a scam.
You talked just a minute ago about the whole idea of the immediacy. They're saying you need to do this now. There's another scam that's been going around for a while that really does frighten people because they think they're getting a call from the police. The scammers are spoofing legitimate police telephone numbers and telling folks if you don't pay a fine, you're going to go to jail.
Yeah, those are particularly scary when they pretend to be the police or like sheriff's department and they're saying, there's a warrant for your arrest or like you missed jury duty and now you're in big trouble. And they are really banking on that fear to try to get people to not think about the context in which they're being contacted and the questions they're being asked. And my advice there, which sounds really counterintuitive, but um, hang up, like if they're contacting you by phone. And if you think you might be in some kind of trouble, certainly you could verify that with the police department, or the sheriff or whoever it is that's allegedly contacting you. But a lot of these are, you know, people who haven't done anything to warrant this kind of contact from law enforcement. So certainly just take a moment to pause. And again, I understand that they're really applying pressure and fear. And so it's hard in the moment to think and pause. So even if you kind of get yourself on the other side of this phone call, talk to someone you trust about it, and hopefully they can also help kind of reassure you that it's not legitimate.
And it's also important to remember scammers are getting everybody. We tend to think that maybe it's people in a certain age group, perhaps individuals who are older, but they're hitting everybody.
Right. They're hitting anyone and everyone. So, in fact, when we look at data from the Federal Trade Commission, we see that people who are aged 30 to 39 are the most likely age group to report losing money to a scam. But we do see when older folks lose money, they tend to lose more money, which makes sense when you think about maybe they have a retirement nest egg that makes them appealing for scammers. But the data really shows us that across the board, people are being targeted regardless of their age. And it's really just that scammers, like we were talking about earlier, they're getting more advanced and more sophisticated. They're kind of trying to tailor the types of schemes that they're approaching people with based on kind of where they are in life, right? So younger people might get employment scams, and older folks might get more of those kind of Social Security imposters, right? So it can happen to anyone.
What should you do if you've been scammed?
Well, I would first say I'm sorry that it happened to you. So the first thing is like kind of acknowledging you've experienced a crime. But definitely you're going to want to reach out and report that as soon as you can. In Wisconsin, one of our primary consumer protection agencies is the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. And DATCAP can take your complaint, they can take enforcement actions, and because they're kind of the go-to source for this kind of thing, a lot of the time they're able to kind of compile a lot of different complaints, right, to go after somebody who's committing a bunch of different crimes. And they can also help you if you've experienced something where maybe your social security number is compromised or something like that. They can help you take steps to start to recover from that and to protect your information from any further harm.
And if you find that you did something you shouldn't have done, like you've given your social security number or you've given your bank information, you need to reach out to folks to help protect that information from being used in a way that harms you as well.
Most definitely, yeah, especially with your social security number. That's going to put you definitely at risk for like identity theft. So you're going to want to lock down that information as quickly as you can. There are a lot of organizations out there that are happy to help people kind of through those steps that can be sometimes intimidating. Certainly, you can, like I said, reach out to DATCAP, AARP. The important thing is reaching out to someone that you know and trust, so that you can take action to protect yourself.
You are also going to make it a lot easier for people to get all this information in one place with an upcoming event that you have. That's an in-person event in Oak Creek, Scam Jam. Tell us a little bit about that. How can people register?
Yeah, so the Scam Jam is an event that will feature three different expert speakers. So we'll be talking about stuff like cryptocurrency, imposter scams, talk a little bit about online shopping. So there's something for everyone. And we'll also have a resource fair so that you can connect directly with these community organizations. It is on May 21st, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock at the Oak Creek Community Center. It's free. You don't have to be an AARP member to attend. And in fact, we encourage people of all ages to come because, as we talked about, this issue impacts everyone. And if you can't make it to our event, you can check out aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork, just to learn more about scams, because really education and awareness is one of our best tools.
Well, Courtney, thank you so much for being with us. If people want to register for Scam Jam, you have seen the address and the QR code on your screen, so please use that to do so. Thanks for being with us, Courtney. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for joining us this week on Connect MKE. We'll see you next week. Stay well and take care.